Gill-man needs gills to breathe and an O-ring to move. Here's your spooky spot on the Super 7 Universal Monsters ReAction Creature from the Black Lagoon. Since it's always best to swim with a partner, never fear. The creature from the Black Lagoon will be there by your side, and he's coming to you straight from the Amazon. Dive in and bring him home as a Universal Monster Super 7 ReAction figure, inspired by the Gill-man creature from the 1954 film. This 3.75-inch scale collectible is based using an O-ring design. This collectible has a swivel head and arms, elbow and knee hinges, and a disc joint shoulders. If anyone could get along swimmingly with your other Universal Monster action figures, it would be the creature from the Black Lagoon. Catch him now. He can't wait to stock your shelves and display cases. Well, I guess if the creature did want to capture Kay, it would only then be fitting that Kay wanted to collect the creature. And she can! The creature from the Black Lagoon, as well as the rest of the other two Universal Monsters, are available right now as part of the Universal Monsters ReAction Wave 1 figures. You can either buy the creature on his own for $20, or you can save some big money and get all three of them for $60. Yes, I know if you do the math, 3 times 20 still works out to be 60. And so while we don't try to figure out the math on how exactly you're saving any money by getting 3 of them, we can at least figure out the math of just how tall the Gill-man stands by bringing in my trusty tape measure. I would imagine this guy's going to clock in at 3 3/4 of an inch in height, and I am right. He is doing that in fact. That's going to translate though to a figure that's 9.5 centimeters tall. If you succeeded in making out the chicken scratch directions I wrote down that led you to the castle, then you know we've been successful now to look at the third figure from the ReAction Universal Monster line. We started things first at the castle looking at Bela Lugosi's Dracula. Then we made our way to the dark, spooky woods where we looked at Lon Chaney's Wolfman. And now we're making it to the Amazon. The one thing, though, I will say about the Gill-man, though, is I think the colors are way too bright. This greenish coloring that he has, I feel, is too hard on the eyes. I think toning it down just a bit, made it darker color, would have benefited the figure a little bit better. You know what else would have benefited the Gill-man? An actual accessory. Yeah, sad to say, the creature from the Black Lagoon doesn't come included with anything. Dracula, of course, came included with a candlestick, and then when we looked at the Wolfman, he came included with his cane. Strange, though, that they chose not to include any accessories whatsoever. The fossilized hand, for example, would have been an ideal accessory, or even if they just included like just a bunch of leaves or rocks or I don't know, just something to be thrown here at the creature from the Black Lagoon. The figure is one of the other things that's notable about him is that he doesn't actually have a peg on the back of his body. Yeah, he's the only figure, and for obvious reasons too. I mean, with the big fin that's sticking out the back of his body, it would be next to impossible to then drill a hole in the back, so this guy can't carry around a G.I. Joe backpack. I would have also been, unfortunately, successful cutting open the packaging, having learned my lesson from the other 2 times. One thing I did decide to do this time around was actually cut it from the bottom. And I was successful enough until I got right around here. And then Butterfingers me, I ended up ripping the cardboard. So while there still is a chance for me to actually get, where's the tray? You could actually get the tray. If you were, though, better at cutting this than I was, you'd be able to slide this back in the packaging and you wouldn't have to worry as much. But because, though, I butchered it, I think the packaging still can't be saved. I would love to have saved the packaging, though, because, again, like we got this retro design of the creature from the Black Lagoon there, Universal Monsters. But then what's cool is on the back, horror and thrill show, horror action figures featuring the said creature, featuring again Wolfman and Bela Lugosi as the Dracula. If you're able to collect this or cut this out accurately around the dotted lines, I mean, at least it gives you the dotted lines to cut this out. You could trim this out and have a file card that you could store away. Speaking of G.I. Joes, the creature's name is Gill-man. Oh, his first name is Gill. His birthplace is the Black Lagoon, the last known surviving member of the race of amphibious humanoids which flourished during the Devonian age. The Gill-man dwells in a lagoon located in a largely unexplored area of the Amazon rainforest. The creature was known in the natives' local legends as man-fish. Apparently he went by also named Gill. So again, I probably will be, even though I have unfortunately damaged the packaging to probably put this back in the card. I will, though, be cutting out the back card and displaying it with my other 2 that I've already collected. Let's move that out of the way. So yeah, sad to say, no accessories at all when it comes to the Gill-man, but the figure still pulls out a pretty good looking look. I mean, again, while I do think the colors of the green are way too bright, I think toning this down just a little bit, I'm not really sure, though, why they chose the color that they did. I mean, it's really kind of hard, again, to look at the figures like this because they're based on black and white designs. I mean, like the Wolfman, we can only go by the fact that in the colorized version, if there was, he'd have a green shirt, he'd have blue slacks. But with these being black and white, which again, I'm surprised that Super 7 for this year didn't do black and white treatments of all these figures. But I do feel, though, the colors of the Gill-man are way too bright of a green. The face looks good, though. Very nice looking face, though, on the Gill-man. Of course, he's got gills all over his face. That's why he's called Gill, after all. And again, like we've already looked at the fact he doesn't have the means to carry around a backpack at all. He does have a big, though, fin sticking out the back of his body. Scales look generally quite good. Again, with the G.I. Joe designs is that you do have peg hinges, though, in the arms. Again, we'll look at all the articulation on this figure in a second. But it doesn't necessarily impede the look of the figure. The one thing, though, I do notice that I have a difficult time with Gill-man is his feet. He has large feet for obvious reasons. I mean, like, creature does have a design of feet like this. He does also have pegals but on the bottoms of his feet. So if you did want to make use of a display stand, even though ones aren't included with these figures, you can, though, barely. And I'm just going to go grab a display stand just to show you guys here. This is a McFarlane Toys display stand. It's always really on the ready. I've got like 7,000 of them. I know that's exaggerating, but I've got a good stack of them off to the side here. But if you did want to use a display stand, for example, I mean, the hole on the bottom of the feet are much larger than the peg. So really, to put them on the stands, they're only just going to be balancing on the peg. They won't survive, though, a blizzard test if you try to dump it upside down. The figures are only just going to fall off. But you can use them. You just can't use them all that well. But the feet, though, I will say, is that if you look at them, they're not completely flat. They bow out. See how this one goes on an angle? This one also does the same. Because of that, I did notice that there's a harder time to get the creature to balance just right. I mean, if you get him in any bit of a walking stance, for example, it's next to impossible. This guy's never going to be able to stand on his own. It's only one thing I don't really like necessarily about the figure. I wish there was kind of a way that they could have made the feet a little bit more flat, not on an angle like this. Other than that, though, I mean, like, generally the scales look really good on the figure. Nice detail done to the hands themselves. He's got the big fins sticking out the sides of his arms. It's a really nice recreation of the creature on a smaller scale. For the figure's articulation, again, if you're familiar with the Wolfman and you're familiar with Dracula, then the articulation on Gill-man is exactly the same. So the head isn't, while not being on a ball joint, it still manages to pull a swivel off. The swivel, though, only goes so far. So while you do it to here and you do it to here, you can't go anywhere else. Don't charter any unknown waters. I think this is only going to cause damage to the figure's head, so I'm just going to leave it alone. But it only seems to be able to do back and forth motion, not all the way around. The top of the torso is obviously still sitting on an O-ring, so I'm not really sure how you'd be able to really take this guy apart. With generally the other G.I. Joes, or really the Universal Monster ReAction figures, taking, though, a screwdriver to the back of the holder, unscrew that, you could take the front half to the back half of Wolfie and see exactly what Wolfie's made of. This one, unfortunately, you can't do that, though, so if you ever had like a damaged O-ring, for example, if this deteriorated over time, which is one thing that we lose a lot of Joes over, I don't think there would be a way, unless you would have to pry maybe the front of the torso apart to fix the O-ring inside. So there is one downside to having this being a fully sealed figure. There doesn't seem to be a way to access the O-ring inside. The O-ring does allow for a much better range of articulation where you can move the figure all the way around, forward and back and forth. When I used to play with G.I. Joes as a kid, this would always be the point where I actually put a sword. Like if there was a G.I. Joe that had a sword or a knife, I'd always kind of lunge it. Boy, that's rather dark. Stick it in the front, and I'd pretend like a cobra got stabbed. I think if anything, that tells me a bit of a sign of what I would be later on in life. I seem to love my horror movies. But the arms do rotate all the way around. They're pinned hinge there, right? So you'd be able to move the arms out at 90 degrees. Or again, you can also rotate them all the way around. The Gill-man does also have a swivel here at the top of his bicep. Only just a single hinge on the elbow, but that's not necessarily for the creature. I mean, all the other figures have also had that as well. There's no hand articulation because the hand is all one molded piece to the rest of the body. I mean, like all the other figures have also had that as well. If I just move the arms out of the way, the legs split about that far. And you can, of course, take the legs and move them forward and back. G.I. Joes, again, like you could always really customize these. If you unscrewed these, you could take these two halves apart, and then you could take another half G.I. Joe leg, and you could put them two together. So if you wanted to have like pockets on the outside that maybe weren't on the pockets on the figure in the first place, you would just put the two pieces together, and then you'd screw the whole back together. The figure does have a knee bend, and that's really all he's going to have. And he has no articulation in his feet. So, like, you know, while it does maybe look like the feet would have posability, it's more just a tease than anything else. All in all, there's a really nice looking figure. The only thing I would really say is my one complaint. Well, first of all, he has a harder time just to stand because he's got these giant webbed feet. I mean, I think anybody really has webbed feet probably has a hard time to stand straight. If you have webbed feet, You don't have to come clean. You don't have to tell us down below in the comment section. The only other thing I would say too is like the coloring seems brighter than it necessarily needed to be. I mean, again, like if you look at Wolfman, we can only again base this on these characters being colorized. Generally though, they would have been known for being black and white. I think that the Gill-man colors are maybe a little too bright. They need to be a little bit darker, a little more darker kind of swamp green, say swamp green, as opposed to like that fluorescent green that they chose to go with instead. The only one other issue I kind of see that faces Gill-man down the road, not right now, you live for the now, but you got to also look for the future as well. I think in the future, if there ever was a time where the O-ring started to deteriorate, or eventually snapped, I think you'd have a harder time to try to fix that on the Gill-man. You wouldn't have any issues at all to fix that on Dracula or the Wolfman, but Gill-man being self-contained with no screw visible on the back, you'd have a harder time to fix that if that event ever happened down the road. I think the creature's enjoying that everybody's staring at it right now. How could we not stare at it? Look how bright of a green they chose to mold the figure in. Now, generally though, I would have gone with much more of a darker green myself. But one thing, though, at least with being a figure line that's only 3.75 inch or 3 3/4 inch, you really want to do something to draw attention to it. While you may have been somebody that would have walked completely past Bela Lugosi's Dracula or Lon Chaney's Wolfman, I don't think there's any chance at all you'd walk by the Gill-man without catching an eye over at it. The one thing, though, I do really like about the Gill-man is the attention to the details. All the scales and all the fins have been captured nicely here. The webbed feet, the webbed hands, all the things you check off when you think of the creature from the Black Lagoon. The one thing, though, that's rather interesting, though, is the self-contained design of his torso. Normally, at the very least, you'd be able to see with the G.I. Joe, there's a front half, there's a back half, there's a screw that keeps the two together. With Gill-man, though, I'm even like looking at the sides of his body and I don't see a seam line. So I'm thinking, though, that they've molded the torso as all one piece, which then makes me really wonder how they got the O-ring in there in the first place. They must have had a reason. The thing about it, though, unfortunately, is if it ever does break down the road, I know we want to live for the now, but you have to still kind of think of this. If it does happen to snap down the road, how are you ever going to replace the O-ring? Well, at least we can enjoy the figure for what it is right now. And what it is right now is a pretty cool looking creature from the Black Lagoon. What do you guys think of the creature? Let me know down below in the comments section. Now that we actually have finished off the first wave of the ReAction Universal Monsters, let me know your top 3 favorite. Well, obviously we only have the 3 to go with, but how would you rank them? Which was the best figure? Which was the medium or the silver? And which one got the bronze? If you guys did enjoy this video, you can do it a solid and throw it a like. If you guys want to stick around for more, I hope so. Certainly there's going to be more Spottober coming your way. There's going to be more spooky spots coming your way. So I hope you guys are going to be coming back to this channel. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.